Hello, good afternoon. My name's Simon Jacobs. Welcome along to episode 115 of Adventures in Pop. You are most welcome. It's a lovely sunny day here in West London. You can see a bit of natural light shining in, which is not always the case when I'm recording these. And welcome along to a special edition of Adventures in Pop because I'm going to talk about my new album, which is out on Friday. It is called Five, and anyone who's been watching, more than one or two of these would know that by now. So if you don't know that, you need to have obviously a bit of a chat with yourself. But you're so welcome. What I want to do is do a bit of a resume of the songs on Five and share with you clips from the crazy selection of videos that I've made along the way. We'll do it in the order of the track listing, and I think we probably need to make that into two videos. Otherwise, you're going to be here for some time and you might just drop off. So we'll do the first half today. We'll do the second half in a few days' time, and as we prepare, as we get ready for the enormously exciting event on Friday, the 9th of June, of the new release of the album Five. So first of all, I just want to recap a little bit for newer viewers of what Adventures in Pop is about. I like to talk about the process of songwriting and occasionally, bits about the arrangement and stuff like that, and not really get involved in talking about production and all the stuff around gadgets and plugins and EQ and compression, because there are other much cleverer people who do that on YouTube, and I don't think that's necessarily my area of expertise. If I've got any, it's certainly not that. So I'm much more interested in kind of focusing on where does a song come from and what makes a good song, and how do you know if it's a good song, and how do you know if you've finished writing your good song, and what if you think it's a really good song and everyone else thinks it's a really bad song. All those things, which is a never-ending kind of minefield of interesting quandaries, and often it's a lot about your self-confidence, about what do you regard as the standard that you want to reach, that you want to achieve, and whether you feel like when you're writing your song and producing your song, if you're producing it yourself, is whether you get to an output which is the same as the thing you're hearing in your head as you're beginning to kind of put it together. And that's quite interesting. And I think only recently have I kind of, I suppose after doing this for about 6 or 7 years, only recently I think I've sort of got to the point where I can get to something approaching what I think it's supposed to sound like in my head. Because obviously in my head it's brilliant, and then sometimes I'm a little disappointed by the reality of the actual recording. So, that's one of those things you've got to kind of work with and get over and develop and just try and get better as you go along. And I think it's a never-ending process, by the way. I don't think you ever get there. It's like all these things. You don't one day wake up and think, I am now a brilliant songwriter and producer. I don't think you ever. Well, if you do think that, call me later. Okay. So that's what Adventures in Pop is about. I talk about my own stuff. I talk about other people's stuff. I talk about pop music in the news. This time, I want to talk about my album Five. Why is it called Five? It's because it's my fifth album, and what you'll notice is on the front of every single that's been released is a rather cute picture of a small boy, which is me at the age of about 5 or maybe 6. We're not quite sure, actually, in my school uniform with my school tie. With those, what those kind of primary school pictures are like. And I felt that was an appropriate way to present the art, the cover art for Five. And actually, this is an important point. When you start thinking about an album, which is a strange concept in a way, because we're now in this world of never-ending singles. Maybe I'll come back to that in just a second. When you think about the album, you do need to consider what is the kind of theme. I'm not suggesting that every album is a concept album. We're not going back to the 1970s where, we're doing Rick Wakeman's Journey to the Centre of the Earth. But there needs to be some kind of overarching thing that groups those tracks together, those songs together, and gives it a visual identity. And I think then I'm quite keen on keeping it a really obviously, quite rigid visual identity through the tracks that get released, so that people know that it's part of that family, that family of songs, if you like, even if the songs are all very diverse and varied and have nothing much in common thematically. So anyway, look, this album's called Five because it's my fifth album, and also if you really push me, I think I thought maybe it was funny. I was having a little ironic, comment, I suppose, on Adele with her, 25 and 30, and I guess one day she'll be releasing, 46 and 53 and all those things. And I thought it was quite funny, so I thought, let's do Five with my 5-year-old face on it, because I certainly don't want to do with that face on. So look, that's where the album came from, and as I say, I think when you're starting out with an album, you need to be clear at the beginning about all of those things. And the other thing, I think I mentioned this probably in the very first adventure in pop, right at the beginning, is this thing about singles. Look, people are releasing single after single. Why? Because it's the way that Spotify works. Spotify is, demanding in a way that you give them singles. They can take one single at a time. You can only pitch one single at a time to their editorial. It kind of makes sense, therefore, to only release one single at a time. They're not really that interested in albums per se. I guess they are interested in playlists. That's a whole different thing. But it does encourage the artist to release singles. And in a way, Spotify becomes a bit of a monster that needs, never ending feeding. And that can be an issue. So with that in mind, you kind of need to know that as you set out releasing your album, that you do have your 9, 10, 11, 12, whatever number of tracks it is, kind of ready. Not necessarily all ready, because you want to leave a little gap between every single, but you need to kind of know that you've got what you need to create that whole album. And I'm thinking of that at the moment because obviously with Five being released on Friday, I'm going to be very, by Saturday, I'm going to be thinking, okay, what's Six all about? It won't be called Six, I promise. But obviously, I'm thinking about what's the next theme? What are the tracks that are good enough? And yeah, how are they going to be presented? When does that kind of kick off? And I'll talk a bit more about that next time. So the opening track on Five was Everybody Here is from Somewhere Else. I think a rather, if I may say so, a slightly, a rather prescient comment when only a week or so ago we were given here in the UK our very, very high immigration figures, and people start getting into a bit of a sweat about whether that's too many, and is this right? Have we lost control of our borders, and who are all these people? I guess all I was saying, and actually somebody else said it very eloquently on that same day, just a couple of weeks ago, basically that everybody here in the UK is descended from an immigrant. Everybody here literally is from somewhere. You might be descended from Vikings or Normans or Celts or Romans or further afield. I mean, it's a rather strange, screwed up logic, I think, to be trying to track down who the English people are, seeing as it just depends how far back you want to go, really. So that is the essence of what this song is about. One of those songs which I hope is an enjoyable thing to listen to, but has a meaning that I guess is quite serious and is something I'm quite interested in. And if you listen to the words, I think I do pick up stuff about, your DNA, and it just depends how far back you want to look, because everybody here is from somewhere else and we're just a very small island. Let's pause and just have a quick look at a little part of the video.
Everybody here is from somewhere else. Nobody is really from here. So stop telling those lies. Stop spreading that fear. Everybody here is from somewhere else. It just depends on where you draw the line. Everybody's traveled here from somewhere. It's just a matter of time. And everyone's related to someone. Someone is related to you. We're just a little island floating in an ocean of blue.
Okay, thank you. The second single from Five was in July. I should say, actually, everybody here, that came out in May of last year. Then in July, released Don't Worry About the Government. Now, that was rather good timing as well, because that was about the time that we lost a Prime Minister and started the search for another Prime Minister, which was a bit of a disaster, and that didn't last very long. So there was plenty to worry about the government. So it was just rather fortunate. I couldn't have, I didn't know that was going to happen. I couldn't have foreseen that. I did know that we had a pretty rubbish government, but then we've had a rubbish government for quite a long time. It wasn't particularly new. So along came the song Don't Worry About the Government, which is basically just saying, forget about it and go and dance. That's the essence of that song. And light-hearted, I hope, not too heavy with the heaviosity of the whole thing. So Don't Worry About the Government, that came out in July, and let's hear a little clip of that.
Don't worry about the government. Get up and dance. Do you think they worry about you? Not a chance. So switch off the news. Go and fetch your dancing shoes. The music is heaven sent. Don't worry about the government. No, no, no. Don't worry about the government. No, no, no. Don't worry about the government. If you've been hurt or just a little lonely, step right up. I've got the perfect recipe.
Then in August, I Don't Love You Anymore came out. So that's a complete shift into something, apparently more personal, although to be honest, this was written with nobody in mind at all. I just rather enjoyed. I just thought there aren't many songs, we need to consider all the songs that are about, I've fallen in love with you, I love you, and I love you forever. There are not that many songs that kind of go the opposite way, which say, I thought I loved you, but actually I don't, don't anymore. And so I found that an interesting kind of area to go to, forgive me. So I Don't Love You Anymore, that came out in August last year.
I don't love you anymore. I thought I did, but now I'm not so sure. There, I've said it now, I haven't fallen through the floor. It's just I don't love you anymore. All those little things I used to think were charming, sweet and innocent and funny and disarming. Now your behavior is increasingly alarming, and I don't love you anymore.
That was followed in October 22 by a track called I Should Have Known. Now, I'm not quite sure what it is I should have known, but certainly I should have known it because it comes up several times. Now, really, what this track, when I look back at this, this track is not so much about the words. It was more about creating this thing in the chorus, and the thing arose from the rhythm, a very kind of orchestrated, I think it's an orchestral kind of timpani rhythm that drives the chorus along, and I just wanted to kind of make that big. So it was one of those exercises of bigness, so that, you're coming along through this nice verse, the verse is perfectly okay, and then, the idea is you're supposed to be, smacked around the face by the chorus. And I'm sorry if it didn't do that for you. It certainly was meant to. It was meant to, cause minor injury to your face. I should have known. And the video for this, this is the moment I think I worked out when I'm making videos how to do this kind of multi-screen thing. And quite obviously, if you wave your arms around, and that's what I'm going to show you in just a moment, if you wave your arms around and then split it into lots of screens, it does make it look like you're doing synchronized dancing, like you really know what you're doing, which of course I don't. So that was quite fun. Let me show you just a bit of the chorus as my really very impressive synchronized dancing.
It's like you're talking in a language I will never understand. 'Cause while I'm walking through the desert, all I can see is the endless sand. And now I'm surrounded by the mountains, searching for where my dreams have flown. You told me love would last forever. I should have known, I should have known.
Okay, so that's 4 tracks down. But let's do another 2 we'll talk about today. Out of a Clear Blue Sky came out in November 22. And again, I'm not quite sure quite what precipitated this one, mind the pun, but Out of a Clear Blue Sky, it sounds pretty serious when I listen to it. It sounds like, there's something pretty, tragic going on here, because just when I thought I'd got myself back together, then you come back, which is obviously a nightmare. But again, I've got to be honest and say it wasn't really reflecting real events, but it just felt like again, a good area to sort of explore lyrically. And I'm always looking for just an idea that has enough richness, I suppose, to be able to write something interesting, try and get a lyric that might be a little bit original or compelling in some way. Because I remember being asked by my young nephew, why do I write words? He was a bit like, can't you just have a song with no words, because all that singing nonsense? And I was trying to explain that actually most songs, kind of, they do need words. And he said, well, what do you write about? And I said, well, traditionally people write about love. And I said, but the only thing is, if you're going to write about love, because so many people have done it, you've got to find an angle. Otherwise that's going to be dull or just generic, and you've got to try and be unpredictable where others have been predictable. So Out of a Clear Blue Sky is trying to do that thing. I think from what I remember, this was built out of a couple of piano loops, which kind of made the whole thing happen. And again, here's a little snatch of the video.
Just when I'd given up all hope of ever seeing you, just when I'd come to terms with the pain, just when I thought I'd drawn a line in the sand, that's when you make your entrance again. Out of a clear blue sky,
And lastly for today, Coming Up Roses. The song Coming Up Roses, well, I think all I want to say about that is I do like this, but Coming Up Roses is a very British kind of expression, and I'm not sure that it's an expression that is understood or travels well. When you get outside of the UK, what the hell does coming up roses actually mean? And what it does mean, if you're asking, is everything's going well. Everything is maybe surprisingly going well. It's like your ship's coming in. You're in luck. Everything's coming up roses. And this was written, I do remember, I've probably mentioned this before, but this was written when I came home one evening from a very, very bad football match, feeling a bit kind of and then wrote this really quite uplifting song as a result, which is odd. I don't know why those things happen, but I do think one thing affected the other, so that's why I mention it. So I will leave you today with a little snippet of Coming Up Roses, and then next time, in a few days' time, we're going to pick up the other releases from the album 5, and I'm going to just give you a little hint of what is to come just around the corner, because there is so much more. Thank you for being here today. I hope you enjoy the summer sun wherever you are, and I'll see you next time. Here's a little snatch of Coming Up Roses.
There's coming up roses. Yeah, there's coming up roses. When everyone supposes that the sun won't rise again. There's coming up roses. You thought no one would notice. Well, holy roses. There's coming up roses. There's coming up roses. There's coming up roses. When everyone supposes that the sun won't rise again. It's coming up. It's coming up. It's coming up. It's coming up. It's coming up, roses dance in the rain. It's coming up, it's coming up, it's coming up, it's coming up, it's coming up.